or the Facebook post, you can see that on the left-hand side of the screen. Or if you're on your cell phone, it's probably at the bottom. You just have to click an arrow and it'll open up, and you can just share that with the share buttons. And I am super glad that every one of you are here tonight. So again, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're engaged to be married, if you're newly married, or if you're been married for a long time, like some of us have, then we are super glad that you're here, because we want to have this show be here to encourage and inspire you how to build your marriage while you're building your life or your business. Or both. I guess life and business can go hand in hand. So what I'm going to do first is just share a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this. My husband and I had been married for 33 years, actually, as of last month. And it's just been such a terrific ride, as well as a very stressful ride at times. I've been an entrepreneur for about 8 years now, and being an entrepreneur really adds a whole new perspective to marriage. And again, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show. But what we're going to talk about is how to create, great marriage strategies, as well as, how you can take some of the strategies that you really use in business and apply them to your marriage. And that's what I started to do. I went through, spiritual development, personal development, constantly learning from exceptional leaders out there in business, people like Alex Mendosian in marketing, Max Simon in the spiritual and personal development world. So many people, I can't even really name them all. Jeff Goins is my current coach. And it's almost like every single area that I wanted to grow in, I wanted to have a coach in. But not just any coach. I wanted to have a coach who had far surpassed any goal that I could have ever set for myself. And that's one of the reasons why today I've written 8 books. I speak to people from all around the world. Being able to do things like this, being on Blab, just exceptional things. I am so fortunate and so blessed. I have a school in Uganda. It's the Kelly Fraser Kindergarten School. No, I did not name it. The Village Women did. But it's so powerfully important to create and build your marriage at the same time. And in my life, I did not know how to do both. So I got to this place where it was a very big challenge for me and my husband. And we actually ended up separating. We were just like, we can't do this. This is not working. And maybe some of you who are watching have found that same thing, that you get into this I don't know what it's called. It's kind of like this ping pong match where, you're like, you hit one side and then they hit the other side, and you're going back and forth, but you're not resolving anything. You're not getting clarity on anything. So what ended up happening for my husband and I was I sat down one day and I started to think about these things and really earnestly pray about them and want an answer. And so that's when answers began to come, and they came in a form of a book. It's called Love Differently, Stay Married. And this book changed my life. It rocked my world in ways I had no idea that it would. It's actually become a movement more than a book. And it's because there are 5 principles of marriage in there that really have changed everything. And the further on we go in this show, the more I'm going to express and share what some of those things are. I'm getting a lot of background noise. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like an open line, isn't it?
It is.
And now it's gone.
Now it's gone. Okay.
There's Blab.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, so that's my story. I mean, today my husband and I are so happy together because we've learned to apply these 5 principles. And again, I'm going to share some of those as we go along. But one of the most important things I want to do tonight is I want to have you have an opportunity to meet my co-host Alice, she's such a beautiful and an amazing writer, beautiful gal. And then Charlene Burke, who I've recently just met Charlene. But I've been following Charlene probably a lot longer than what she realizes, because she has done something really special that I'm going to ask her to share a little bit about that tonight. So I'm actually going to turn this over for just a minute to Alice. Alice, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about yourself with everybody.
Yes, I'm Alice. I live in Houston, Texas, together with my husband and 2 dogs. You might have noticed I have an accent. I'm originally from Germany, and I actually just moved here about 3 years ago. So I haven't been here that long yet. I am a full-time admin assistant, and I enjoy outdoor activities, reading, traveling, crafts, stuff like that. Yeah. 2 years into my marriage, I learned that my husband was having extramarital affairs and that he was actually a sex addict. And I didn't know if I was going to stay or leave or just kill myself. And I ended up surrendering my marriage to God, and he has brought me from glory to glory ever since. He has given me beauty for ashes. He has healed me. He has transformed my husband and restored my marriage. And today I'm a certified marriage mentor now. Since November last year. And I don't know everything about marriage yet. I'm still learning. But what I learn, I share on my blog, Alice's Blessed Life, and that's what I do.
Awesome. Yes. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting because a lot of people would be like, oh, how could she share that in public, right? One of the greatest things that we can do for not just ourselves, but for everybody who is listening is to recognize we are human. No matter what, we are human. And that comes first and foremost. And the second thing in that is that as we experience marriage, look how long I've been married, right? We don't have all the answers. The greatest thing that we can do is really kind of write down those things that do work for us and put them into action and maintain those things so that we can, continue on a more positive realm than what we've ever experienced before. And I don't care how long you've been married, you're never going to have all the answers, right? So, okay. So Alice, can I ask you a few questions? And people in the chat also, if you have questions for Alice as we're talking, go ahead and write them into the chat, and we will make sure that we get them at least asked or posted on the other side. So Alice, can you share a little bit about, actually, tell us why you love your husband without using the word love. Oh, can you do that?
He is just, his love language is acts of service. So he just naturally likes to show his love by serving me. He likes to help me, and it's just like little things. Like we do almost everything together. Like it's sickeningly. We really do everything together. And he helps me hang up the laundry, and he lies to me when he doesn't like my food. And he's just he's so sweet. He really. Anything I ask of him, he will just say yes and amen, and I love you, and you're beautiful, and that's why I love him.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. I don't know very many men that would everything, that somebody would say as far as their wife would just say, wow, that's awesome. You're beautiful. I love you. Amen. That's pretty great. So, well, thank you very much for sharing that. And I appreciate your husband being here. And what did you say his name was? Joe. Joe. Okay. Hi, Joe. Sorry. I'm not wearing my glasses right now, which is why Alice is working the chat and not me. But Joe, we're really glad that you're here. And, if at any time, if you feel like you want to jump into the seat, we would love to have you in there. Just saying. So Charlene Burke is a guest that we invited on here tonight because I met Charlene while she was taking a group of people here on Blab and working through the book called Think and Grow Rich. And I started to notice something with Charlene. She started doing this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlene, but I think she started doing this as a way to get to know the community and have the community know her, but also a way to grow in leadership and in a way that could really expand on what she's trying to do in the world. And as I started to listen to her, I just kept thinking, okay, this woman has really got something. She's not only extremely intelligent, but she has a way with people that is really a gift. And I saw it just continually develop as every single time I got on, and again, I've been on and, not gotten into the seat, but I did one time and I totally enjoyed my conversation with her. So I'm going to turn it over now to Charlene Burke. Charlene, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself as far as what you do and who you are, that would be awesome.
Well, wow, Kelly, I knew you lurked sometimes, but obviously it was more that secret lurking was happening. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words there. My name is Charlene Burke. I founded Search by Burke, a full-service online marketing agency business research firm in June of 2008. So virtual from the beginning, virtual on purpose. The entire intention was in my quest to find a way to own my own business for many, 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 many years, was to do something from home or something from a remote location, have it virtual. And the opportunity arose in 2008, and I did it, and I jumped forward. Would not have done it had I not had a husband who kept pushing. He literally tells me from the time before we were married, I'm too smart for this. You need to go forward. You're too smart for them. You need to leave. You need to go forward. You need to do it yourself. You're smarter than they are. It's obvious. You need to be out there doing this. And so there finally came a time when I felt capable. Plus, I had a handle on how to do things online. And so from June of 2008 until November of 2014, I worked solely with businesses. Then, due to a lot of requests from individuals I'd worked with, I provide training and consulting for individuals as well, and doing workshops, been doing that since 2009. I decided that I would branch into the individual area with Grow Because You Know. And the premise of that is that I'm a believer that education and knowledge will take you places you never dreamed before, but only through education and knowledge. I also think it's my responsibility as somebody who knows things to share them with others. And my hope is always that whomever I share it with is able to do with it what I did or more to improve themselves and their lives. So that's what I do, those two. The Blab you're talking about is Morning Mindset Cafe. I've been doing it since August. We are on our third pass-through of Think and Grow Rich, 8 a.m. weekday mornings, Monday through Friday. Only time I miss is when technology decides not to cooperate.
Which happens more often than once.
Well, and beta, Blab is in beta, so we all just shrug and say, okay. But there was one time when it really was tech issues at my side. But I think maybe only 3 times I've not made it. Right. Yeah. So I do a lot of things online. I'm known as Search by Burke, quite honestly. It's because I am, at heart, I am an information professional. I love to find new information. I love to learn new things. I love to build on that which I already know. And I love to think about things differently. So I'm constantly asking the what if so that I can see from a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for sharing that, Char. Do you go by Char?
My friends call me Char. Okay. You are welcome to, Kelly. I respond to Char. It jars me every now and again because really it's family and friends that call me that.
Right. I don't know why I've been so tempted to call you Char every time. So just a couple of things that I want to mention. So for those folks that are in the chat, we are going to just, kind of dive right into some of the questions that we have that have come in on my end, because I have Love Differently, Stay Married as a website. It's also a Facebook page. And so people ask a lot of questions through those places and through email. And so we'll be answering those. But also, if you're here on the chat, feel free to type in a question and put, let's see, it is /Q, correct?
Yes.
/Q.
You can see what it looks like there to the left on the screen with the questions, and just beneath that it says type in quotations. Don't put the quotations.
Right. Okay. And then that way, if you want to ask a question, it'll come up as a question. If you want to just write a statement, like a lot of you are doing, great job. Thank you so much for being here. We really are enjoying you being here. Alice will be responding to questions, and so will I. And Shar, you're welcome to too if you see them. But we also want to mention that if you want to tweet this out and Facebook it, you can do that as well. And I would be thrilled if you would do that. And how long have you been married? How long have I been married? I know, isn't that terrible? I got to do this number. I'm getting new glasses and I can't wait.
Okay.
I have been married for 33 years. And that just seems like an eternity sometimes when I think about it, because it is such a long time. But I'm going to just tell you really quickly, I actually married my best, dearest, most wonderful friend in the entire world. But even best, dearest friends butt heads, right? But when he was 13, when I was 13, he was 14, that's when we met. I totally heard angels singing behind me when I saw him. I didn't know if he was a boy or a man because he was like the hulkiest, most gorgeous thing I'd ever laid eyes on. And I never forgot his face, but I had no idea who he was until I saw him again. He was walking down the corridor of our high school, and I was sitting with a girlfriend of mine, and I see him, and every time he went under this light, like the light would get dark, and then light again, and dark, and then light, and as he was coming closer, I went, oh my gosh, that's him. That's the boy man that I saw. And she knew who he was, and she was just like all grossed out. She's like, oh, that's sick. I mean, we're in high school after all, right? But after high school, we ended up dating, and we didn't get married until we were in our 20s. So I'm really old. But it's just, being able to be married to your very best friend and going through all the ups and downs in life. Like in 2007, I lost my 18-year-old nephew. His mom was my little sister. She died of cancer. We lost our business. We lost so much. I even lost my brain because I had a traumatic brain injury. At the end of that year. And so, I mean, so many things happened at one time. And when you go through stressors like that, and we're going to talk with the ladies here tonight about that, when you go through things like that, if you have not built a solid foundation, those things are going to make you fall apart. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why Love Differently Stay Married was so, so important, because it's a system that actually creates a foundation that can support everything that you go through. And it's such a powerful thing. But anyhow, Alice, what about you? Did you and Joe experience, I mean, you guys really experienced some turbulent times. Were you guys best friends before you guys got married?
We thought we were, yes. I mean, you don't marry somebody thinking that at some point you might fall apart or have a divorce. When you marry someone, you marry that person with the intention of staying together forever, because you think that this is your soulmate, this is your best friend, and it's just gonna last forever. But then eventually you realize that it's just not like the movies, that you actually have to put work and effort in it for it to work out, and to stay connected and to stay friends.
Exactly. Yeah. And what about you, Charlene?
Which part?
About being friends. Were you guys good friends?
We were friends.
Okay.
Yeah, we were friends. We were running buddies, actually. Just to answer Rose's question, we were married 25 years, October last year. We were dating other people, and he'd stop by the apartment for a cup of coffee to moan and groan about the latest witch he went out with. And I'd have my cup of coffee, and I'd moan and groan about the idiot I'd gone out with. And we did that for a long time. And then essentially what happened was, why don't we try it?
That's so funny.
And literally, that's what happened. I often say, and it's the truth. He laughs. He said it's the truth. He spent the night and he didn't leave. About a month or so later, he stood in the middle of the living room of the apartment and said, "Where do I live?" And I thought that was obvious. And but there were restrictions put on the arrangement. See, I was 27. He was 32 when we married. So we weren't young and dumb or first loves. or anything like that. We were actually well worn by the time we met each other. And so the restriction that I put on him was that if we are going to actually live together, it is with the intention of marriage, that after 1 year, if we are not married, we will separate, because the unending, not knowing non-commitment does not work with me. And he didn't have any problem with that.
Wow.
And it was actually well less than a year when he proposed. So it was.
That brings up a really good question. And I would love to know from the people in the chat, how many of you have actually dated somebody with the intention that that would be the person that you plan to spend the rest of your life with? I mean, you know, it's not like just going to the movies with a friend, but seriously deciding whether or not you're going to date somebody with the intention that this is going to be the person that you're going to end up with. Can you just write yes or no in the chat? Because I'm just really curious. We were dated. I was a baby when I got married. How old were you, Rose, when you got married? And how long have you been married?
She was 15.
15? Wow.
No, you didn't date.
Wow.
She really didn't date.
Wow. Okay. So,
but if you date someone without the intention of staying together, don't you waste your time?
Yeah.
That was the way I approached it, which I'm not seeing a problem with that way as being an approach. It is full acknowledgement, full disclosure. My picker was broken. So the fellas I had picked to that point weren't the right ones.
Right.
But it was, I had running buddies. And then I had guys that I went out with on a date. And to date more than 3 times, gave serious consideration to somebody I want to get to know. So when Rick and I started living together, knowing that this will either end in marriage or it will end completely, it was with the intention to get to know each other, to determine, are you really the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with? Now, he'll be the first to say that he knew it from the moment he saw me the year or 2 beforehand. He knew it, but it took me a good 4 to 5 months into even living together to fully commit and say yes. That's how seriously we took it,
Yeah, that is pretty serious. So Alice, what about you? Did Joe see you, and was it love at first sight for you?
I knew that it was kind of funny because we met 3 years earlier, and we only stayed in contact via email because we both were in a relationship. And then once we started actually talking, I was at work while I was texting with him, and I turned around and I told my boss, I tell you something, next year in August, I'm going to be in the United States married to this guy. And I visited him a couple of times, and then he proposed to me on my birthday in January, and I came back. No, we actually got married 3 days later because we saw a lawyer, and we didn't know what we were going to do because I'm not a citizen. How are we going to stay together? And he said, well, the best way to go is to just get married right now. So we got married right now. And I came back and I told my boss, see, I'm married. In August, I'll be gone. And I put in my notice that I'm going to be gone in August. And I actually moved here in August.
Wow. Talk about whirlwind.
I knew it was going to, I don't know. I just knew it was going to happen exactly that way. And that's how it happened. It's crazy.
When did you come from Germany to here?
In 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And it took how long for you to actually get like all your paperwork done and everything? I'm just my daughter's going through this right now.
Well, we did not apply for the green card right away. It took us a little because it cost money. We didn't have that money back then. But all in all, from the moment when I filed to the moment when I actually had my green card in my hand, that was probably 3 to 4 months.
Oh, wow. That didn't take long at all. That's excellent. Okay, so we have a question from Alex, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. And Alex, thank you very much for that. But I have a question for you ladies. I'm curious what you think are the 3 biggest time wasters in marriage. The 3 biggest time wasters that you can think of in marriage. I'm just going to say my number 1 time waster is arguing. I just think it is.
That was my number 1 time waster.
I think arguing is the biggest time waster. And part of the reason why I feel like it's the biggest is because if you're arguing for the sake of arguing, there's no reason to be even discussing it. It's like, what is the point behind arguing? But we used to do that all the time because we had no plan. We had no strategy behind how we could communicate, or how things were going to find resolve. It was just argue, 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 because that's what was example to us. Now, just a wee bit of background really quickly, because maybe you ladies can relate to this. My husband and I, but we came from 11 divorces between our 2 families before we were in our mid-20s. So all we saw was unhealthy relationship examples. So arguing was normal, right? That was what we were, honestly, we were comfortable with that. So there's a powerful switch that needs to be shifted if a couple is going to learn how to not argue and to really just have discussions. Can you get heated discussions? Absolutely. Can it turn into an argument? Absolutely. And maybe that's a good thing at that time, but not arguing just for the sake of arguing. Anyways, that's my number 1. What about, actually, let's go to you, Charlene, first, and we'll give Alice more time to think.
Well, I have never been asked that question, so I truly am stumped. We don't get lost in arguments too often. Quite honestly, they don't last that long if it begins. Wow.
So should I go to Alice?
Yeah, honestly, I have never looked at, I've never looked at anything that my husband and I do as wasted time.
That's a great
so
answer.
It's,
That's a great answer.
I've never been asked that, so I don't know. I honestly don't know how to answer that.
Right. Okay, so Alice, what about you? Do you know how to answer that? Or can you think of a time waster?
Well, I was gonna say arguing, but what I'm gonna say now is probably just, it's basically the same. It's just what I saw a couple of weeks ago. It was in a Christian marriage encouragement group, and somebody said that sometimes when she and her husband argue, that they won't talk to each other for weeks, even months. Yes.
Now you know my second time waster.
That is a time waster.
Yes.
That makes no sense to me.
Not at all. I don't know how you can go living with one person in the same apartment or house without talking to each other.
Yeah. Okay. So
now I can do it for small periods of time. That's
exactly. That's what I was going to say. So let's address that. I'm so glad. That was actually my number 2. Okay. So yeah. And again, I want to know from the people in the chat, how many of you have ever lived with somebody, dated somebody, or just been with somebody who just stops talking to you? And in truth, that is a way to control the other person. Silence is a way to control. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of psychology with that perhaps, but that truly is what it comes down to, because it's a barrier protection. Because as long as I'm not talking to the other person, that way they can't hurt me, right? So it's a barrier protection. And even though we all, which I'm sure we all do, because we will get to these places in communication, if we don't know the 7 steps to great communication, which most people don't, but if you don't know those, then that's my phone. Can you guys hear that? So if you don't know that, then it really does come down to, when you get hurt, you either fight or you flight, right? Those are the 2, psychological thrillers in marriage. We either fight or we flight. And that silent treatment is the protective barrier where we get to control. But it is such a harmful thing to do in relationship, because it does not give you the maturity the education of actually coming back together and sitting down and having, those conversations that can really help rather than hinder. And you might think, well, it's a lot better to not talk than what it is to talk when you're angry. And in most cases, I would agree. But there are some cases where anger is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's something that you have to learn to control. If you hurt in the time of anger, then it's out of control. But if you're not trying to hurt somebody, but you're just expressing the anger, then that's a very different thing. Charlene, what do you have to add to that?
That if you do tend to go for the silence, it's awesome to have a partner that doesn't let you get away with it.
Amen. Yes.
Because when we first getting together, I am my father and I married my mother. And that means that I am the stoic, quite content to sit forevermore with a book in my lap and have my cup of coffee, introvert to the extreme. And my husband is a gregarious social butterfly, true opposite in personality that I am. So he needs to talk things out. And we had to learn how to respect how each of us deals with issues. And so in the early years, he was adamant. He was persistent. He was going to get me to talk. And I had to learn how, because I honestly didn't know. That was one thing, how to have an extreme emotion or a very strong emotion and be able to talk through it. To me, you have the strong emotion, you acknowledge you have it, and you back away so you don't hurt the other person. Problem comes in is 2 to 3 days later, things have changed, so I never addressed why I had the strong emotion. So what he did was to pull it out of me. And sometimes it was during the strong emotion, extreme discomfort, and I'm still very uncomfortable with it. But over time, we learned how to work with it, And sometimes, even today, if it's something that I've dug my heels in about, he hates doing it, but he calls my mom and he tells her, he says, I'm going to make her cry and I don't want to do it, but it's the only way I'm going to be able to get her to talk about it. It's the only way I'm going to be able to, but you need to know in case she calls you. And mom says, you just go for it. She's a better woman because of it.
That is so interesting. I have never heard anybody say that before. And I find that very, that
call
you
my
would,
mom?
Yes, call your mom and warn her. I think that is so endearing. I love that.
Oh, geez. Yeah. She thinks he's, she says, I swear to goodness, anybody who meets us can't believe we're married because they meet us separately. They meet us separately, and still today, 25 some odd years later, they are absolutely draws drop when they see us together. And until they see us together for a short time, they don't get it. And what's fun is honestly, after a short time of spending with us, we get it every single person. Well, now it makes sense why you are together. And when he came into my life, even my mother, my brothers, my father, he was just, dad was one of those dads that stayed away, so to speak. He just emotionally was distant. Older friends, they all shook their heads and said, why him? Please, not him. And every single one of them, because I saw things in him they didn't, of course, and every single one of them within a year or two of us being married think that he's the most awesome thing that's ever hit the earth, because I got to know him. And
well, it sounds to me like you kind of think that way too now.
Oh, so. I do. Oh, I thought that when I first met him. But even my mom will say that she'll go to him before she comes to me. Right. But yeah, they're best buds now. It's
JP was over here. That's pretty cool, though. JP was over here just commenting about how his wife used to like stuff things, hide things deep inside. Yeah. And I think that is really where a lot of the pain is just stuck in there. Emotional connections, and this is really what I am all about. I am all about emotionally connecting to God, to yourself, to other people, because without emotionally connecting to your spouse, I'm sorry, it's only going to be a physical relationship, and physicality does not help a relationship survive. Yeah, I mean, you are bound to struggle if all you have is a physical connection. So then the question comes, how do you emotionally connect? And that's really the basis behind this all-important blab here, is to really help people to create and build their marriage while they're building their life. So my question to you, to both of you ladies, would be, let's talk about some of the ways that you guys emotionally connect, some of the ways your husbands emotionally connect to you. And guys, I apologize for there not being men on here tonight. If I could get Joe on here, if I could force him to come on here, I would, but I can't. So let's just, talk about this. And David, if you're still on, if you want to jump in, because even though you're single, I think you've got tremendous insights. So you're welcome to jump on too. But Charlene, let's start with you. What do you feel is like some of the greatest ways that you and your husband emotionally connect?
It is when we have either everything turned off, there's no outside stimuli, or if there's anything, it is soft music and candles, and we sit face to face and we talk.
Awesome.
He listens when I talk, and I listen when he talks, and it doesn't have to be about anything deep, but it's the most special moments we've had since the very beginning. He's the only one that ever listened and understood me when I talked to him, and he wanted to know more. And he was interested in learning more, and he's still that way today. And I do the same for him because he's extremely intelligent. I mean, we're both engineers, and we come at things with very different perspectives, but end up in the same place because we both like to see how things are built. We like to know how things work. We ask the what ifs, troubleshooters, and what have you. And so when he's talking about it and he's excited about something, I get excited for him. But the best times is when we've turned off all that other stimuli and it's just us. And that's our time. And it can be done from the recliner. It's been done lying in bed. It's been done on the couch. That's just us.
Yeah.
Eye to eye. And then it becomes heart to heart, and it's powerful. There's a lot of trust built up. A lot of trust. That's where it starts. That's how he started talking to me, and I developed my trust in him over the years. So.
Well, okay, so this is huge. And JP, maybe this helps you a little bit. I think what Charlene said in the very beginning was that when they just sit down, they face each other. I mean, sitting knee to knee, eye to eye, hand to hand, whatever it is that you do, you have to feel safe. Your wife has to feel safe as well. But when a person is going to stuff their emotions inside, it's because they don't feel safe. And so I think it's extremely powerful when you can sit down and just have those few moments of just emotionally connecting, being completely present in that space and time, and just listening to their heart. You don't even have to say anything sometimes, just being completely present with them. I just think it's such a powerful thing, and thank you for sharing that, Charlene. Alice, what about you?
What my husband and I like to do is basically every night he reads to me. We currently read 4 different books, and every night he will read one chapter out of each book to me, and then that's what we do before we go to bed. We read our Bible, then we go to bed, then we read our other 4 books, and then we go to sleep.
You read 5 books?
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I've never heard that. That is so fascinating. Wow, wow, wow. Joe, good job. That's awesome. Is he still on here, by the way?
Yes, he is.
Good. That is awesome. I love that. Okay, so one of the ways that my husband and I emotionally connect is we are outdoors people. So we do, he's going to kill me for sharing this, but we do things like skydiving. He hates skydiving, hates it. But he gets past his fear because I'm one of those people that, I mean, I could hang from anything and be fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
my husband.
It's so crazy. But I wasn't like this until after my brain injury. So once the brain injury and once all the healing from all of that took place, I became like somebody different in up here, you know? And so now I love things like that. So as we're skydiving, I turn and I look at him and I can see he's petrified. So I'll just reach over and I'll just hold his hand and I'm like, it's okay, you're going to do great, you know? And it's things like that that really, we help each other that way. Because there's things that I don't know how to do. Like, you know, he'll go out and he'll chop wood or whatever. And seriously, ladies, if this is one thing that I really hope that every woman here is listening to this, because this is so powerful. When your guy is doing something really, I'm just going to use the word macho, okay? So if he's out there and he's swinging an axe and he's, you know, working really hard on something, just sit there. Just sit there and be with him. Or if you want to help, ask him if you can help him. And guys, the same exact thing for you. If you want to help your wife with doing something, don't just jump in and help them do it. Ask them, how can I help you do this? You know what I mean? Just the question alone will emotionally connect you guys in ways that you really can't even, you know, think about right now if this is not something that you're used to doing. But try it. I'm telling you, it really, really works. He was out chopping wood the other day, and I went out, and first I was just kind of like hanging there. It was freezing, but I was hanging there, and I'm like, well, honey, do you want me to help you somehow? And he was like, yeah, you know, you're welcome to just go ahead and pick up all this wood that I've chopped and start stacking it. So I started doing that. Now, I've done that since I was a little girl, so I was used to stacking, but then, of course, he had to come in and restack a couple of things on the end so it wouldn't fall. You know, that's okay. I'm okay with that, you know. So I think what we've said right here, just those 3 tips about emotionally connecting, if you guys implemented just some of those things, read to your spouse, sit eye to eye, just ask, you know, how their day was, but really stay focused and present, and then do something fun together, you know. And if one of you is frightened of doing it, then really be there for that other person. Just saying, you've got this. I know you've got this, you know. The encouragement goes a long, long ways. So ladies, I'm going to turn now. We're going to answer this question. So Alex asked, can you define love, and at what point did you start loving yourself? Charlene, you want to tackle that one?
Well, define love. I consider love to be a verb. But it began action, but it's based on intense emotion, and it's a combination that the emotion comes not only from what you think and feel, but also it's a spiritual aspect to it as well. So, I mean, all 4 elements really come into play. You've got the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the mental, but it's expressed. When it's expressed is when it's love.
Excellent. That's a great definition. Yeah. So Alice, how about if you tackle the part of how do you love yourself?
To be honest, I have just started to learn loving myself a year ago when I went vegan. I don't even know what happened, but I used to have a lot of issues with myself, with my body, with my personality. I just didn't really like myself very much. And when I went vegan, I did not feel the need to diet or exercise. I mean, I still exercise, but I didn't feel the need to diet anymore. And I actually gained weight since I went vegan, but it doesn't bother me at all. And I feel I'm completely comfortable with myself and with my body. And I mean, this is not going to work for everyone. You cannot just go vegan and you're going to start loving yourself. But this is what has helped me a lot to accept myself.
I understand that. That when I changed my lifestyle and the way I ate and exercising and all of that, I agree. It does something to you. You know, it makes you recognize that you're getting healthier, your body's getting healthier, healthy body, healthy mind.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot to that. Absolutely. No, that's great. Well, we were informed that Alex was not here, and I'm really sorry that we didn't get a chance to ask the question when he was here, or maybe it was a she, I'm not sure. But yeah, so thank you very much for answering that question, ladies, and I'm going to click that off. Now, If anyone would like to come in and actually ask a question, now is the time to do that. I think we have it locked though, so we're going to open it back up. So if you want, go ahead and come on in, and that way you can ask anyone in this group a question. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask another question to these ladies who have been just so generous with their time and their energy here tonight. So I have 5 secrets in this book, Love Differently, Stay Married. And these are the 5 secrets. Love God, take personal responsibility, celebrate the victories, be unified, and show gentleness. So of those 5 things, and I can repeat them if you need me to, which one of those do you feel for your relationship and your marriage is the most important? And I know it's hard because they're all very important, but which one do you find like really vital for your relationships? Either one of you can. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, of course, all of them are important, and they have a level of importance. For us, and the 2 of us, the show gentleness.
Yeah,
that's what comes out strong. We have, the 2 of us have been through pretty much everything a couple can go through and still be together. Everything that we've experienced, and every time we've experienced it together, we're told by professionals afterwards that they're surprised we're still married and still together. And it gets to a point, honestly, where we just look at each other and say, who the heck would have us? For God's sakes, we've been through so much, I mean, we kind of have to stay together now. We have to.
That's so cute.
Well, it just is. I mean, it's a litany. It's year after year after year, one thing after another, after another, after another. And, but I wanted to say that because that's why I think show gentleness is so important. We recognize how strong the other person is. We fully recognize that. And because we recognize that, we understand that the more strong you are, the more gentleness you need in your life. Because if you're not, you're going to be hardened. And we're not hardened because we're able to be gentle with each other.
That's awesome. Yeah, JP was saying over here that his wife left him a note last week saying that thanks for being a gentle husband, and he pinned it onto which is awesome. I mean, it's true. In fact, and I wish I remembered where the study was from, but I don't. I want to say Stanford, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But there was actually a study done of, I think it was 1,000 couples, and they all said that gentleness was their number one, attractor for their mate and for their spouse, and what kept their relationship thriving. I agree 100% that gentleness is by far one of the most important qualities, but not the only important one, obviously. So Alice, what about you?
To be honest, my number one would be love God. Jimmy Evans once said that we are all made, we are created in the way that we need love. And if we feed love off of each other, if I feed my love off of my husband, then I can only love him as much as he loves me. But the love that he actually needs is the love of God that I cannot give him without loving God myself. So in order to be able to love my husband the way that he needs to be loved, and the way that he deserves to be loved, and the way that he was created to be loved, I need to love God first and ask God to help me to love my husband.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So those of you that are in the chat, if you want to do any kind of applauding to what either of these ladies have just shared, and I should have said this earlier, but you can click anywhere on their pictures, and it actually, if you see the little number counter going up, that's why it's going up, because we just keep clicking saying, yes, yes, say it again. Okay, so I think that, really is a beautiful, I guess maybe litany of really how our marriages can thrive and what they can do. I want to touch on something here. The name of this show is Build Your Marriage While Building Your Life, or Building Your Business, either one. But one of the ways I think it's extremely important for us to really recognize that the things that we've been talking about here, they're not just vital to your marriage. They're vital to you as a human being, period. Whether you're married now or you're going to be married, or you might have just a relationship without marriage, every single one of these things that we've been talking about are extremely important. But how do you put a strategy in place to be sure that these things actually occur in your marriage or in your relationships? I'm going to just tell you right now, without the things that we've been talking about here tonight, and I've lived a life without any of these things that we've talked about here tonight, and it was not a pleasant life. And Alice can attest to the same thing. And I don't know if Charlene has lived without them or not, but yeah, I mean, if you live without these things that we've mentioned here, you are going to struggle, and that's not what we want to see happen. So that's why this show is here, to help you be able to take notes if you have to take notes. We're going to be doing this every single Wednesday night, 3 Wednesdays out of every month. We're going to have the last Wednesday off of every month. But it's important to be able to hear other guests. We're going to have some very strong guests each week who will come in and share their opinions. They're going to share their marriage experiences and their wisdom that they've gained throughout the years. And I believe that if we don't love our spouse, or as Alice was saying, love God first, we're going to be putting them first. And let me explain the difference. And again, this was one of the things that came out in this book, is that the difference between putting your spouse first and loving them first is, let's just say I'm a secretary on a job, and my boss comes and I've got my work all laid out. I know exactly what I'm going to do because I'm a planner and I'm planning it all out. And then all of a sudden, my boss comes in with a stack of files. He throws them on my desk and he says, hey, look, I got to have these done by the end of the day. Make sure you put them on my desk, right? Now, he has just asked me to put his agenda before my own. What is my reaction going to be? I really don't want to do that. That, to me, looks like a pain in the neck, et cetera, okay? So already I feel resistance. That is exactly what you're going to feel if you try to put your wife first, or your husband first, or God first. But if you loved them first, changes everything. It changes everything. So the first thing in the morning, one of the first things that my husband and I say to each other is, how can I help you today? What can I do to help make your day easier today? That's not something that, people who will put their spouse first, they don't think about those things necessarily. They just think, as you go throughout the day just happens to you. But if you actually choose how you want to create your day, it is a completely different mind shift. And Charlene, isn't this what you guys have been learning in the Think and Grow Rich book? It's about shifting that mindset.
It is. Absolutely it is. But that's not how we start our day. It's, honey, I beat you awake, so I made your coffee. That's how I show him I love him, which is the kind of coffee that walks to you. You don't have to worry it's going to come to you. It's that strong. And then he bleary-eyed gets his cup of coffee, and we sit quietly for about 15, 20 minutes, and then he comes awake. And actually, he wakes up happy. He's one of those that sings in the shower and sings sings throughout the day. But he still is bleary-eyed. So what we do is we say, so what you got going today? What you got going? And it depends on what's happening. Sometimes he's asked, well, what can I do? Oh, well, I think that you might be able to do this, that, or the other. It'd be helpful. Can you take care of this? Or he'll say what he's going to do, and I'll say, I wish I could join you. Is there a way that you can, let them know that I'd love to be there? Or is there a way I can catch up later in the afternoon or something? I might be able to squeeze out some time between appointments or something, but we kind of talk about, so what you got going, what's happening, Yep. Because then at the end of the day, we kind of review. So how'd it go? You know, you said you were going to go here, there, or whatever, and how'd it work out? And or he'll ask me, so did you get the big proposal, or did you get it out, or what'd you do? What'd you end up doing? And I'll say it, and he'll say, well, did it make you money? You know, because he knows it's about business. So.
Right. He cares. He cares.
Yes, and that's it. We'll show each other that we care.
Yeah, exactly. Disconnect. Disconnect can happen in such tragic ways. It can happen in easy ways. And actually, that my manifesto, I have a manifesto that is about disconnect. It's about emotionally disconnecting, in fact. And I put it in terms of Superman and his kryptonite, right? So kryptonite in Superman's life is what completely divides him from his superpowers. And it's just exactly the same way in our lives. And this is the final thought that I'm going to have here, because it's almost at the top of the hour again. I don't want to see that kryptonite happen in your marriage. And again, that's why we're doing what we're doing. Alice and I want so much for you to be able to have a life that is rich with your spouse. And being able to build a business or build a ministry or build a life at the same time of building your marriage is vital for what you do in your world and in your life. We are so tired of seeing divorce happen. Did you ladies know that the month of January is when the most divorces occur? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't know it at first. This was something that I came across, and
well, it's probably because they're cooped up in the house and don't know how to talk to each other.
Probably. I think probably a lot of it has to do with the holidays. You know, holidays are stressful.
Overspending and stress.
Overspending, exactly. And so a lot of divorces happen. I'm so tired of hearing about my friends, especially my entrepreneurial friends, who are growing in so many different ways through personal development, spiritual development, all these different ways in leadership, but yet their marriages fall apart. There's something wrong with that picture. So that's why this is so vitally important. Okay, I'm not going to even talk about that. Just I could go off on that. But Charlene, help me to just share with our audience how people can find out more about where you are, what you do. Is there anything that you want to share with them so that they can find you?
Follow me on Twitter. You can find me online, just Charlene Burke. Google Charlene Burke and I'll come up. My LinkedIn and all my social media channels will come up. The website I have for Grow Because You Know is www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Search by Burke.com is where the business oriented content is and what we do for businesses. But really, it's, I'm here on Blab. I'm easy to connect with. I do a lot of things to connect other people with each other personally and professionally. I'm very active on social media, Facebook, and specific Facebook groups. So really, that's the best way I know to tell you is that, like you, follow me for a while, right? If you want to connect, then please do. It's really easy.
Right here on Blab, actually, it's very easy. If you just go up to her, what do you call these, name tags or lower?
Yeah, you can call it the ID tag or the name tag, sure.
Just click on that. You can see the little, what is it, like a little person there. Just click on that and you'll end up following Charlene and Alice or myself. And we would love that. I mean, this is really a great place for all of us to connect, to stay connected and, to really get to know each other and to continue encouraging each other in our marriages. Alice, I want to thank you too for joining us again tonight. And I look forward to however many blabs we do about this topic. This is such an exciting thing. Charlene, thank you very much for joining us. I want to also just let you know, if you guys, this is in Barnes & Noble, it's in your local bookstore, it is anywhere that they sell books, okay? Because all people have to do is order it through Ingram or Ingram Sparks. It's on Amazon, you can find it. 5 secrets in here, the principles that we were talking about tonight, that's in this book. I also, on the lovedifferently.staymarried.com website, or if you want it shortened, it's lovedifferently.info. You can also find 3 different offerings. There's the manifesto that I was mentioning. There's audios. There's videos. There's all kinds of free stuff there, so go get it. Ladies, thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn off the recording now. Everybody who's been here watching, who's really watched faithfully, especially in the viewing area, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really value you and hope to connect with you very, very soon. So the recording is off.